remember a lot of these songs. It's like that,
and that's the way it is.
Hey guys, Jamie Nixon here with Being the Black podcast, and I'm here with my man Donnie Eden. And guess what? We're not going to talk about business. We're not going to talk about mortgages. We're not going to talk about social media. We're going to talk about us growing up, how we lived our lives in the black, how we lived life to the fullest. And one of the things that helped us do that was our love for music.
I thought you were going to say skateboards. Okay, good. Music. Okay, got it.
I mean, we did love skateboards.
We did love skateboards.
I definitely had the benefit of having older siblings.
Yeah.
And you didn't.
I had an older sister, 5 years older,
Okay.
but I didn't have multiple like you did.
Okay, yes, because I have 4 that are older than me. So with that being said, I had a huge influence, and you just basically had your friend group influence.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're going to talk about elementary years, middle school years, and high school years, and the albums, and the artists.
Okay. We don't have to nail it down to one song.
No. Basically, what album came out during that time that impacted you the most, okay?
Yeah,
and
okay.
so I want to go ahead and so I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit. I did tell you ahead of time.
I'm thinking.
And I did tell you ahead of time this is kind of what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to talk music and talk about your favorite albums, but now I'm breaking it down into time frames.
I got it. I got it.
All right, let's go. Elementary years.
Okay, so mid-'80s. So I'm 10, 11, 12, 13, in that range. And, I don't really know what I listened to really prior to this. I know I listened to stuff, but it wasn't, it was more what my sister listened to. And when Run DMC came out, Hard Times, and that whole album, I think it was just called Run DMC,
Yeah,
self-proclaimed title, which was awesome. And what they did, there was some, I'd heard the Houdini and Grandmaster Flash and the Rapper's Delight and some of that stuff, but they did it different. And then they kind of instituted a little bit of edginess to it and whatnot. He's cheating. He's pulling up the deal here. So that album, I can remember some of my buddies, Brian and Matt and Chris and Brad, and us just sitting around like, Hard Times, I spread it. And they started taking those lyrics and really bringing it in to real life kind of stuff. Not that I had, middle class white dudes, not like what they had dealt with in New York and LA and all that kind of stuff, but it resonated with us for sure.
Yeah, right behind your house was cornfields.
Cornfields, not Hard Times.
Yeah. So, but actually looking at this album, came out in 1984, Run DMC.
Okay.
Self-titled, Run DMC. And I remember a lot of these songs. It's like that,
and that's the way it is.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, they were
Loved
awesome.
it.
They were
Loved it.
awesome. What about you? Where are you at?
Well, man, I had to just take it back to when I was a little kid and my brother introducing me to Kiss. And the song Shouted Out Loud off the album Destroyer.
You got to have a party.
Yeah, and I would stick out my tongue and walk around like Gene Simmons and everything, and just the comic book sense of that, the characters, and I remember going to elementary school and having some buddies like, man, like I'm Gene, all right, well I'm Ace, it was so funny because
who are you?
I was always Gene.
You're Gene, okay.
Gene,
You're Gene Simmons, got it.
And nobody wanted to be Peter Criss,
nobody, or which drummer it was at the time.
It was different. Yeah, it was Peter at the time. So, but when you look at Destroyer, Detroit Rock City, which they've used that song to open up probably 95% of those shows that they've ever done once the song came out. You have Shout Out Loud, you have God of Thunder, you have Shout Out Loud, God of Thunder, Beth, their only top 10 hit.
Yeah. Was I Love It Loud on there?
No, I Love It Loud was 1982.
Okay. They have so many songs, by the way. Yeah.
So that album came out in 1976. However, I probably heard it around 78.
Okay.
That's kind of how
you were little.
I was literally at 5 years old, 6 years old. I was in a Kiss dress-up contest at Castor Knott's at Rivergate Mall.
Yes.
Which then broke out into a fight.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, it was like people got me, but there was guys there that I thought was really Gene Simmons. They were that good, and but no, just a huge Kiss fan, and I got to see him about 28 times. last show, Andrew took me, my son took me to St.
Yeah,
Louis.
that's huge.
And I kind of teared up a little bit when Shout Out Loud came on because I was like, man, it's the last time that I'll hear it,
Yeah.
you know, live like that. So,
And it does stink, you know, with all these artists as they get older and we see them, they kind of decline or whatever. But I saw Kiss this past year as well, and it was awesome. I mean, they know they're just 70-something years old. You know, it's just weird.
just some grandpas out there, you know, painting their faces up. But no, as a little kid, you know, the comic book, just that mystique of everything, you know, and it was awesome. So,
Nice.
all right, so let's go to middle school. You know, little adolescent Donnie, you know, 7th and 8th grade, running around White House.
Man, he was trouble, by the way. I mean, he was not,
earring or no earring? Did you?
well, it was a little later when I had the earring.
Okay.
But my hair was so long, they didn't even know I had an earring, as crazy as this sounds. So I got introduced at church camp to Shout at the Devil, Motley Crue. And I thought, I know, it's weird. And in Doug Lee, Mandy Christensen's dad, my dad's defense, Horace Wilkinson, they did the best they could being our youth leaders, and they were just parents. They were chaperones more than anything. It was terrible. I mean, we were the bad boys of church camp for sure. We did actually get some foundation, biblical foundation, but when I heard Motley Crue for the first time and all that they brought to it, I mean, I think I've heard you talk about, you know, you didn't love them in the beginning, that kind of thing. But Motley Crue knows how to put on a show. They are truly the bad boys of rock and roll. I'm telling you, when they started playing all those songs that are on that album, I was mesmerized. I had my Walkman that I got down at not Electronic Express, but Sounds, whatever, someplace down in the mall. It was like super awesome a Walkman, and I could hear it. It was mesmerizing to me, Jamie. I mean, I just couldn't get enough Motley Crue. And then I sustained. I ran with Motley Crue all the way through high school. I mean, they put out some good stuff for me. And they were the biggest they're the granddaddy, in my opinion. No offense to Kiss.
No, that's fine. Because I actually think that they tried to be like Kiss. And I just remember when they first came out, you know, and they had just their look, the Shout at the Devil. It's like, because I tried to explain to people that Kiss wasn't like Satan worshipers, you know, so then here's Motley Crue's like, oh, but these dudes are, you know, so it took me a while to kind of warm up to them. I've seen Motley Crue twice.
Okay.
Funny thing.
You've seen Kiss 28 times. Got it.
Both times I saw Motley Crue, they were with Kiss.
Of course, that's the reason he saw them. Yeah. But I mean, I was just looking at my phone, some of the albums. You know, they did Helter Skelter, which is a Beatles cover.
Yep.
Red Hot, which is not, even if you're a Motley Crue fan, you might not know that. But when Tommy Lee kicks in with those little double bass drums at the beginning, just high energy, high tempo. I mean, it's just, they brought it. I mean, Tommy Lee was the one that would flip upside, they'd have his drum set flip upside down and all that crazy. I mean, Vince, Mick, you know, and I always thought, like you were Gene, I was Nikki Sixx in that deal.
Gotcha. One funny thing is they actually had a song on the demo. If you go back and I just looked up their 40th anniversary for this album coming out. They actually had a song in there called Hotter Than Hell, which Kiss actually had a record called Hotter Than Hell.
That's right.
They didn't release it on that album. They released it later on Theater of Pain called Louder. And I was like, oh, and that was probably very strategic.
For
like,
sure.
Hey, you know, Kiss already had this song.
We're not going to go crazy and kind of dub them right off the bat. But no, Motley Crue, man, really molded me into the man that I became. That sounds terrible, but in a good way, if you will.
That's awesome. So my middle school album came out 1986, which is kind of crazy when I tell you finally what my high school album is. But 1986, so 10 years later, after 76, and it's Beastie Boys' License to Ill. Now, just like what you said with Run DMC, which the connection between these two artists, besides both being in New York, is Rick Rubin, who went on to produce stuff for Johnny Cash and produce stuff for Eminem and things like that.
He's done a lot.
He's at Jay-Z, you know, and so, but this album, Rhyming and Stealing, The New Style, She's Crafty,
No Sleep Till Brooklyn,
Slow Ride, and then here's some things that we forgot.
Okay, give it to me. From that album?
From that album. Brass Monkey.
That Funky Monkey.
Paul Revere.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that one. I'm going to go listen to that as soon as I leave here.
Here's the crazy thing about Paul Revere. That beat, when you hear it, the beat is played backwards. And I know that you've talked about beatboxing and stuff and stuff like that, but that beat is being played backwards.
Okay.
That beat is, you can fact check me.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's do
But
this.
I do believe it's LL Cool J's either Dear Yvette or I Need My Radio.
Huh.
And Rick Rubin played it backwards. And
Okay.
Here's a little story.
Yeah.
Like that. So it's doing, it's a backwards beat.
Never
but
would have known that.
It's an LL Cool J beat that Rick Rubin, who Rick Rubin produced,
Yeah.
and played it backwards.
No, the Beastie Boys were good. They were, just, they look like us, but they did this kind of music and then throw some actual
rock.
grungy rock into it. Oh, yeah, they were edgy for sure.
Probably definitely started the rock rap thing. Later on, they did the well, no, that was Run DMC that did the rock rap thing with Aerosmith with Walk This Way, but Beastie Boys the Fight for Your Right to Party.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I recorded that track in Six Flags over Georgia, down at the music park inside of a studio.
in one of those little studios. Yeah.
Like the line said, "Mom, you're just jealous. It's the Beastie Boys." And when I did, I said, "Mom, you're just jealous. It's James and the Boys."
James and the Boys.
Never called myself James ever, but it's kind of hard to say Jamie and the Boys. It
Yeah, sure. It sounds more edgy when it's James.
And speaking of edgy, I remember King Ad Rock for the Beastie Boys. He always had the New York Mets hat on, and he walked around in that Fight for Your Right, but he had that big Volkswagen emblem, and other people wore the Mercedes, but here's King Ad Rock.
He wanted Volkswagen.
The Volkswagen, and so somebody out there has a Volkswagen bus in the '80s that's missing the emblem. Sorry, I took it.
That's his. He had to make a necklace out of it.
Yeah,
you couldn't go on Amazon and just buy one back then.
Nope.
No,
pretty sure you couldn't. But so the Beastie Boys and is once again just letting us look in behind the curtain about where they grew up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they definitely telling stories in there, not like Keith Whitley would tell a story, but they told their own stories in their own way.
I won that vinyl, DuPont Middle School, DuPont Junior High, and down in Old Hickory, Tennessee. Me and a guy named Glenn Adams won a talent show thing. He rapped, I beatboxed. And you want to give us a little? No, I'm good. I'm good. But that's how I got the vinyl.
I bet he still got it.
I got the vinyl, the License to Ill. So, all right, high school, man.
Yeah. I was just thinking about it as we're going through. Let me pull it up.
Now, high school, Donnie's playing sports, right?
Yeah. So I went to Good Pasture through 7th grade.
Okay.
Came to White House in 8th grade, and it was really weird because I'd been private school, buttoned up shirt, collar, haircut. I got to White House and they said, "Yeah, you don't have to do that anymore." I said, "Okay, this is great." So that started the era that culminated with my dad telling me later, like, "I thought we had lost you and it was over, and my son was never coming back, down the wrong roads." So that 8th grade to 9th grade was rough for me. So then I started playing sports, well, just football. Because we only had 3 sports at White House. God, why didn't they have a golf team up there? I digress. But yeah, playing football and, running around the mall and chasing girls and doing all that stuff. Late in high school is the album I'll pick off that, because I was still pretty heavy Motley Crue and Poison and Cinderella and all that. But White Line really spoke to me. So they had a couple of albums before. One was that hit that they had, Wait, which is a love song. I never had a chance to love. It's a beautiful little song. Yeah. But I stayed with them, and they came out with Big Game after that. But am I getting those flipped? Was that after?
Pride with White Line was first. It
Okay.
was like 87.
Yeah. That's when Wait was on there. But Big Game, that album, I pulled it up. I mean, we're talking, well, I'll get to my favorite one here in a minute. But Don't Say It's Over. Cry for Freedom is a big one. Little Fighter, if you've never heard it, it's a great song. It's actually got a great story to it. I'll let you look it up. But Radar Love, Jamie, that took me to a new place. And I was driving at the time and maybe running around probably a little further than I wanted to, but Dad was paying for gas at that time, so it worked out really great. But that song, you mentioned Detroit Rock City, that would be number 2 for me, driving song. Radar Love, which is a cover from Golden Earring. And the way, I definitely like White Lines better, although Golden Earring had a better drum solo. But that's the ultimate driving song to me. I mean, you are putting the hammer down. I love, but when we really started listening to this in the beginning, I was taking lifeguard classes with my buddy Kevin Sanders, who was at Lipscomb at the time. And we went in this dungeon of a pool under a gymnasium and took these lifeguard classes. And we talked about how fast we could get, he had a Fiero, I had my Thunderbird, who could get home faster from David Lipscomb. So we could make it in record time. Obviously, the traffic wasn't the same then, but it was always Radar Love, on loop, back to back. I mean, to this day, when we're traveling and everybody's asleep and I'm just getting droggy or whatever, you put Radar Love on, you're perked up. You don't need any coffee. You don't need to roll the windows down. It's all about White Line at that point.
It's a great story, Donnie. I was like, hey, that's basically about living life in the black.
That's living life in the black.
You think about just how the stories that you have, the memories you have, and how you can basically go back. You can hear a song.
It takes you
it's
right
a time
there.
Machine. Yeah.
It transports you right to that. I do it all. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it.
There's only two things in my life that can do that: smells and music. I can smell something I can smell like a tobacco barn.
Okay,
yeah. So,
y'all had the tobacco barn right next to the football field.
Before we get to my last album, I do want to thank our sponsor, Deja Mu. What are you drinking there, Donnie?
Man, I love my English breakfast iced tea. If you haven't ever had it before, just walk in and say, "Get me what Donnie has." It's phenomenal.
Yes, and they have a lot of stuff there. I know you eat some of the burritos. I love the omelets.
Great breakfast.
Yeah.
They're not just ice cream.
Not just ice cream, not just coffee. They also got bagels. I mean, they got some phenomenal bagels.
Wraps, sandwiches, salads.
And so wanted to definitely thank Deja Mu. Also want to thank Key HVAC, Key Heating and Cooling, for all your HVAC needs. It's about to be summertime. If you guys are, if you get hot, if something breaks, give these guys a call. They're local. Wonderful.
Great guys.
Yep. So thank you very much to Deja Mu and to Key Heating and Cooling. So my album.
Okay, yeah, high school
album, which is crazy because, I grew up with a lot of different influences, older brothers, older sisters, and of course I get to high school and I have a lot, I play sports, so I love tons of rap stuff, I love tons of country stuff, but I'm a rocker at heart, and it's just when Guns N' Roses came on the scene.
Axl.
And you saw Axl.
I can't do it.
And you saw Slash. And the crazy thing is that Slash had the big hair. The first thing
he just kind of hid behind it.
Yeah.
He just down
and
there.
he played the Les Paul. Ace Frehley from Kiss played Les Paul. And I just love
nice.
that.
I love the connection.
I love that. That's what I was like. He's playing Les Paul.
Wait.
And that album, Mr. Brownstone, Paradise City, Sweet Child of Mine, literally that video opening up where Slash plugs in his guitar and he goes into that opening lick, that is Sweet Child of Mine, that everyone knows.
Everybody knows. We did it in church to open a song not too long ago on our worship team because it just fit.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, "Oh my God, he's playing Sweet Child of Mine."
Yeah, and so when that came out, and of course, hair metal's dying at that point.
It's changing.
Yeah. Grunge is coming in. You don't, Axl, I believe Welcome to the Jungle, Axl had his hair all teased up, and of course, then it went away because they tried to go that look, and he's like, that's not what we are. We're t-shirts, blue jeans, a little bit of leather, and that album was out for a whole year, and it never caught on. And then Giffen Records paid MTV, said, we want you to play this video a lot, 3 nights in a row, and we're going to pick the 3 nights, and they did it, and all of a sudden it started becoming the most requested video. They sent all 3 songs, like the story, you can look up on Google, that they sent the radio station, Welcome to the Jungle, Sweet Child of Mine, and Paradise City. And said, we don't care what you play, just play it.
Just play them. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, for a while they're their biggest rock band.
For sure.
And so
they were icons,
and definitely, then Nirvana and that Seattle movement, Pearl Jam, all that came in, and of course it changed the landscape of music. But that record I can still put that record on and still feel the raw emotion of every single instrument, and Axl's voice is.
Well, I think about, you mentioned Mr. Brownstone. I mean, he's singing in a very low octave.
Yeah.
I used to do a little, but a little would and do it. And then you go to Sweet Child of Mine. I mean, his range is from the basement to heaven. I mean, he can do all the things, or used to could.
Yeah. And what's crazy is that I watched something not too long ago about Sweet Child of Mine, is that because they talked about all the different producers that they were tried to get. They wanted Mutt Lange, but he was way too expensive.
Right.
Mutt Lange, who is produced Def Leppard, who went on to marry Shania Twain.
Okay.
And if you listen to Shania Twain,
sounds like
any
Def
Man
Leppard.
of Mine and Def Leppard, they sound a lot alike.
This is weird.
And then they tried to get Paul Stanley, and Paul Stanley, lead singer of Kiss, but he was, touring just kept him from doing it. And I forget the gentleman that they had, but he like wanted them to perfect everything. And and Slash was like, I spent my record advance on heroin.
Right.
Here's this guy trying to get me to perfect everything. And the reason I tell all that is because right in the middle of recording Sweet Child of Mine, the guy kept on wanting them to do it over and over. Well, they were playing the track, and Axl just starts going, "Where do we go now? Where do we go now?" And it was kind of being a joke.
Yeah.
He's like, "Keep doing that. Keep doing that."
That's it.
And it's like that became the bridge, and it was just like, and so
No, it is. That's the best part about all that is there's those stories. Anytime I see a rock documentary or any really music, I watched Janis Joplin just the other day. I love hearing those stories about that.
So to wrap this up, man, this has just been the very first podcast. Donnie, I couldn't think of any better way to really get this one off the ground.
I'm number one.
To have a full-length podcast.
Yeah.
But music is just such a big part of my life. I know it's a big part of your life. And I don't want people thinking that we're just going to talk about business and, being in the black is about running your business, to where you're making profit. Well, there's a thing about just doing life.
In the black.
Like you're making your life, not about profit money-wise, but and about just living life to its fullest, getting out of it all that you can get out of it. And you talked about Walkman. I remember when I was a little kid, somebody would have a big boom box
with the equalizer on it.
With you're EQing it, and we're all riding our bicycles around in the parking lot or something, and doing jumps and ramps, and we're all listening to that. And I know with your parents, you probably grew up listening to country just like me, like Conway Twitty, Marty Robbins, Statler Brothers, things like that. So we had a big country music influence
For
as well.
sure. I hate that I didn't bring one in my top album, but I wasn't. During this time, we'll have to do adult
for
top
those
albums, phase 2 of this.
For those years, we wasn't influenced by that. If there's one country song that influenced me, and you can ask Andrew Nixon and Cameron Casanova, my driving song, if you want to get somewhere fast,
all right.
Jerry Reed, Eastbound and Down.
We're going to do what they say can't be done.
We're going to get there really quick. So anyways.
Mine, by the way, country song from kid, me and my dad sang it all the time, was Country Road. I remember singing it at like 2 or 3 years old. Mountain Mama, Take Me Home, John Denver kind of thing. And that is a very special song, not only for the family, but specifically me and Dad, me and Big D.
So before we end this,
all right,
I got to ask you one question.
All right.
A lot of people don't know this, but you're a Kid Rock fan.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that because when you turn 50, you like that song.
He did it at 40, and he did it again at 50. Yeah.
But you have actually, you say there's some life lessons in some Kid Rock songs.
Yeah. I mean, there is, Kid Rock, not cowboy days or his rapping days. I really didn't like that part. But in the last 10 or 15 years, he's mellowed out a little bit. Songs may have got a little more complex, although his lyrics are a little simple. There's a song called Roll On. It's on the Jesus, whatever.
Yeah, what is it? Yes, it's a black cover.
Yeah, anyway.
Rock and Roll Jesus.
Rock and Roll Jesus.
Yep.
And it's called Roll On, and it just talks about him growing up, and he didn't think he could make it. He stood against an army all of one. And you just think about being self-employed, not to get all preachy here, but being self-employed seems like, man, I want to do what Donnie does. He just rides around his Bronco. It's really hard. And when you start in business and whatnot, and that's what he is. Kid Rock is a self-employed person that if he don't make it, it don't go. And that song, just look it up. It's a great, great song. It gets a little edgy, but it's chill and got a lot of good lyrics in it. I actually just introduced another entrepreneur to it recently that was going through some times. I said, man, I'm going to give you some words of wisdom. I need you to pull up a Kid Rock song. She's like, oh my God, this is crazy. I'm never going to do that. But in these songs, there's some great little nuggets of wisdom. So yeah, that's an in the black moment there for
That's
sure.
awesome. Hey guys, we really appreciate you watching. If you would, hit that subscribe button.
Oh yeah.
We just definitely want you to tune in. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, all of the platforms. Donnie, thank you once again,
man.
buddy.
Glad to do it.
You guys try your best to live life in the black.
Make it a great day.